Hello again. I've been thinking about socialising and social behaviour in the context of neurotypical versus neurodivergent, specifically, I suppose, in relation to autistic spectrum personalities, but also can be relevant to ADHD people, and to some extent may also apply to people who are introverts in either population group. And it stemmed out of thinking about the modifications that educational establishments sometimes provide for neurodivergent kids. And with people who are more aware of the benefits of modifications, they realise that these modifications are intended to provide an amended environment that better supports a neurodivergent child. Unfortunately, there are still educators who seem to think that it's to try and make the child fit in better. So ways to get the child back to meeting the kind of norm in terms of expectations of behaviour. So, for example, if a child can't tolerate being in a food hall and you let them sit in a side room so that they don't have to tolerate the intolerable for them smell, or they don't have to see all the different types of food, or they're not overwhelmed with all the different sounds in terms of cutlery scraping, chattering, clattering. That's great. But if you're doing it to try and help them calm down and then slowly ease them back into the main food hall, that's not a modification that's in support of the neurodivergent child. That's a modification that's intended to make things easier for the school. And, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking that this kind of approach often happens when it comes to socialising and making friends. So there is an ingrained prejudice that we all need to have friends. We all need a bestie. We all need a small group of people that we hang out with on a regular basis, preferably weekly. We need people that we can chat to on the phone regularly. We need people, like lots of people, not just one, but a whole handful of them. And they all need to be in real life, face-to-face preferably. And this just isn't true. And I had a client ask me recently whether it was okay to not want to participate in groups. And, my first thought was, well, of course, why wouldn't you? And I was thinking about many adults I know actively have chosen careers and social lives that don't require them to be in groups. So there are people I know who never, ever, ever socialise in a group at all. It's always one-to-one. They may have, 2 or 3 friends that they hang out with. Some maybe only have one that they speak to on any kind of regular basis. And here I'm not even talking about weekly. I'm talking about maybe twice a year. For some people, the social contact they get in the workplace is more than enough to sustain them, so that they don't actually need to have a social life outside of that. And that's not the sign of a sad or lonely person, which is the prejudice that we often get in our culture. It's a sign of someone who doesn't need any more social contact than that. For some people, this kind of enforced social contact of being in the workplace is too much. And so they choose to work from home. They choose to work remotely. They choose to be self-employed so that they can better control the number of people they see on a day-to-day basis. Maybe travelling public transport or driving in a car surrounded by other cars to get to work is too much for some people. And so we do really have to accept that different people really do have different needs, and not everyone needs a social life like our culture expects everyone to have. There are many people I know who the majority of their social life is conducted online, either via phone calls, text messages, voice notes, through gaming. There's a whole heap of ways that you can socialise and make friends. And if you are happy with that, then that is fine. The issue arises if someone has contracted their world so much that they are not happy. That's when it's a problem. But if you think about someone who is completely overwhelmed, close to burnout in their lives, and they're reducing that level of social contact, some people see that as a warning sign that they are neglecting themselves in some way, but it's really important to consider that it actually may be a defence mechanism, a protective mechanism that they are very intelligently utilising to lower the level of demands on them, and that actually at this moment they really do need to reduce their level of social contact so that they can cope with the other stuff in life, like staying alive or eating or attending school or getting to work. So I think you know, for me, it's about having a much greater level of respect for people's own personal needs and their own self-knowledge, that many, many people really do know what they need, and it may not be the same as what you need, and it may not be the same as what you think they need. There was a link that I came across. It's a group I came across probably a couple of years ago now, and I know they shut down their servers for adding people because I think they were quite busy, but I don't know if they've opened up again. But it was something that I thought was a really, really interesting concept. And so there's a YouTube. I'll send the link below this video, but there's a YouTube channel called Spectrum Gaming Autism, I think, and it's specifically designed for people who have autistic spectrum personalities to be able to connect with other people on their wavelength, game together, share their knowledge together, and they have a few servers where children can play, young people can play. I think they have Discord and Minecraft. And to me this idea is fantastic because it's meeting people where they are with no expectations that they ought to behave in a neurotypical fashion. And this is what we need more of. It's this recognition that neurodivergent people may well socialise in a very different way to neurotypical people. I mean, I'm very conscious that even within kind of popular culture in the neurotypical society, that there is a lot of prejudice against introverts. A lot of people who I know who are introverted have commented on this, that there is an expectation that you ought to be extrovert in your behaviours, in your networking skills, in the way that you approach people. So this goes more than just beyond differences between neurodivergent and neurotypical people. There are also complex layers around extroversion versus introversion and what is valued in our culture that we need to be aware of and think about, because there are skills that introverted people have that do not exist in the extroverted population as prolifically or as much. And there are skills that extroverts have that introverts struggle with. And it's this rich diversity of life that I'm really struggling with at the moment, that so many people don't seem to value this diversity of individual differences. And for me, I think it's what makes life beautiful, that people are different and have different needs and can fulfill different functions in our society. There are people who would love to work in a laboratory, not talk to people, quietly get on with a job that has clearly laid out rules and expectations in a peaceful environment where maybe they talk to 1 or 2 people a day. And there are other people that would thrive in an open plan office with 100 people, constantly bumping into people and chatting with them at the tea point or the water point or whatever. So I guess my takeaway from this is really to try to be aware of your own ingrained beliefs about how socialising should look in terms of quantity of friends, how you socialise, whether it's in real life or online. And, I come back to this thing about online because, many of the older generations will really struggle with the idea of screen time because it's seen as a singular thing, screen time, rather than as a place where you can fulfill a whole variety of needs. And if you have someone in your life who is stressed, anxious, at risk of burnout or in burnout, they may need to cut physical contact with people. And if that is the case, that's okay because they're protecting themselves. But they may also need to start conducting some of their social life online or a significant part of their social life online. And that's also okay. They may decide this as a temporary solution, or it may form part of their long-term strategy for how they get their social needs met, and that's also okay. So have a think about what your own ingrained beliefs are around socialising. Have a think about how well they work for you, and then have a think about how well they work for people in your life, particularly when you're looking at introverted people or people who are neurodivergent. Have a think about whether their social needs really do suit them, or whether you're better able to support them in what they do need socially. Please do drop me a line if you have any questions about anything I've mentioned in this video, and I will try to remember to put relevant links beneath the video afterwards. If you have any questions, let me know. If there's anything else you want more information on, let me know. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please do consider subscribing or sharing this video or my channel with other people, because I really would like to reach as many people as possible in terms of supporting the raising awareness of neurodiversity and what can actually help support people who are neurodivergent. I hope you have a good week and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.